Hey guys, it's Leesh, and welcome to another episode of Car Confessions. Guys, listen. I feel like I'm just kind of like chronicling, life as we know it each week. And I guess to some degree I am. The hope is that I get my hair cut. Well, I am getting my hair cut on Friday because I am looking a little crazy. But that's besides the point. Anyway, how are you all doing? Hopefully you're doing well. You're taking care of yourselves. It's Wednesday, April 30th, last day of April. It's crazy that we are only in April. It feels like we've been in 2025 for at least 5 years. Like a real talk. Like what? What? I feel like this particular administration, the Trump administration, has taken us to a place of like, excuse me, like I feel like we are just constantly in a state of what next? What next? What next? Right? But I don't know about you, but for me, I have done my best to not constantly look to the news and be in panic mode and flip out like I had done during his first presidency. I mean, obviously, a lot of that was me just trying to understand what was going on with, my job that I had at the time, because I worked in health clinics and we were managing people with COVID during that time. So it was a whole different ballgame then. And, but yet, I still was like in front of that TV fully watching Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, like the whole MSNBC crew. Like, I mean, I watched them all, faithfully, you know, and I was constantly in a state of panic, having panic attacks, not understanding like what the heck is going on, and I said to myself this time around, especially after we found out that he was the president, I was like, no, whatever this fool is going to do, I'm not putting myself in panic mode like I was before. Like I refuse to put myself through that again. It was too much. It was way too much. And I'm going to be aware, right? Going to keep myself informed as much as possible. But I am also going to take time to just live my life, right? And enjoy my life and not be in this state of fear. Because here's the thing about fear. Fear keeps you stuck because it's all you're thinking about. That fearful whatever, right? Looking at like the state police stop somebody here in the city. That's so random. That's another thing too, guys. Speaking of fear, like so much police presence here in New York City. Another thing is like what was crazy was like after the whole defund police situation went down, a lot of police were kind of like, kind of pulling back in terms of like, them stopping people or whatever. And you really saw a ton of police like you did in the past, but now it seems like it's ramping up even more. Like I said, the state police are back there. They have those intense lights, those big tower lights on their car. Like, what the heck is going on? You know what I'm saying? Another reason to invoke fear. And was that person? I don't know if the person did. I don't know why they got pulled over. But the state police. If you know anything about New York City, we have our own cops here. The state police, the troopers and all that, they're normally on the highway. Like I'm on like a street here in the city, so that's why I was like, what? Whatever's happening, I hope everyone is safe in the situation. But yeah, back to what I was saying. Fear can really put you in a state of just being stuck and not allowing you to see beyond whatever's happening right in front of your face. I refuse to do that, and I have kind of always been like that kind of person. Like things have scared me and I've gotten better and better at, finding ways to manage fear. It's been a long road, but I've got some tools under my belt where I can really manage and navigate how to deal with that kind of stuff. And if anything, I would encourage you all, if you don't have that type of practice in play, to definitely start finding ways to manage and navigate fear in your life. Because one, like I said, it holds you back. Two, anxiety is just through the roof sometimes when it comes to that. You limit yourself with things that you can and can't do, right? Or can do, rather. I wouldn't say can't, because that's where you're at. Like you feel like you can't do anything. People are driving crazy. I don't know what's going on. And so, yeah, I'm like, things that can remove as much fear from my world, I need to be about that. Full stop. I'm not going to succumb to that. I'm just not doing it. And so, like I said, I'm staying informed as much as I can, but I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not going to allow all this information that we see on the news and what we're hearing about what this administration is doing to the American people provoke more fear in my life. I'm going to do the best that I can, and I encourage you guys to do the same. And it leads me on to talking about this whole thing about the ports. I know, and if you don't know about this, a lot of the ports here in the United States, the goods that we normally receive apparently are not being shipped to the United States. A lot of the ports are empty. So the goods that we normally get from other places, we're just not receiving them. And that's causing a lot of fear and panic. And I get it. I get where people can be a little scared and nervous about us not receiving things that we normally have access to on a regular. But I think if in the event that this really goes down the way they say it's going to go down, I would just say prepare yourselves, right? Just get prepared. But in a way that is allowing your nervous system to be regulated. Not in this whole fear mongering, oh, I've got to go buy every canned good in the store. No, just get yourself ready. Okay, this can happen. In the event that this happens, I have these things in place and I'm ready. And I'm not, I might not be able to do the things that I've done in the past. I might not be able to, maybe some restaurants are affected. Maybe I won't be able to go out to eat. I was hearing someone was saying that like even down to like nail shops, like where you get your fingernails and toenails done and all that kind of stuff, like they could suffer, and some have suffered because their supplies are also at risk of not being sent as well. So it's like in the scheme of things, a lot of things that could be affected can completely change how we operate each and every day. But like I said, it's a sense of preparation and also a sense of knowing that, like I said, some things we just won't have the ability to do. Hopefully it won't be a permanent thing, but it will, cause some uncomfortable ways of how we normally navigate life here in the United States. And I shared, some of this on TikTok. I shared like a reel. I talked about this a bit on TikTok about how I felt like even though all this is happening, we're going to be okay. And so I shared, like I grew up with parents who grew up in poverty. A lot of their survival skills I learned because I watched them as I was growing up. I learned how to cook. I learned how to, do some basic sewing. I'm not a seamstress. Let's be serious, not by any means. But I know how to survive. And I think most black people, I'm not saying all, so let's just, but I think a lot of black people, even regardless of your economic standpoint, we know how to make shit work because we've always had to figure shit out. We've always had to be those people who had to, jump through all the hoops and hurdles and things just to remotely be noticed. So, in some ways, when I hear all this information, it's not that I'm not sensitive to those who are really nervous and stressed out about it. It's just like, welcome to what most black people experience on a daily basis here in this country. Now, do we have the ability to, receive the goods and things like that, almost everyone else in America receives? Of course, yes, we do. But the inconveniences of, not being afforded to have things or to be a part of things is what, black people experience here in this country. And so now that it's something that's falling on the collective, now it's headline news. And I'm not laughing, but it's like, I am laughing because it's like, this is something that has been voiced by black people for years, that the way marginalized groups in this country have been treated would eventually catch up with everyone else. And I think it was a thing of this would never happen to me, right? This would never happen in America. This would never blah, 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 blah. And with every marginalized group, there are litmus tests, right? To see how far, our government, right? Or even, corrupt organizations, how far can they go with a thing? So they're going to test it out and see if it works. And it works. And you've got enough people behind you convinced that it works. And not only does it work, it's benefiting some of the people in the situation. But then it's like the question of how long will it benefit you, right? And so we have seen this over 400 plus years that it's been benefiting white people in this country. But now it's getting to a point where it's affecting everybody, not just the white people. Why do I keep getting this thumbs up? I don't think I'm doing if you're watching this on YouTube, you're probably like, what the heck? It keeps showing like my thumb and I don't know what's going on, but if you know, you know. But anyway, so it's one of those things where it's like you wish people would have listened sooner and really stood up and said, hey, this is not right. This should not be happening. This is an injustice, really, to everyone, even though it was centered around, Black people or marginalized groups. I mean, now the whole trans thing is like the thing, which is, it kills me. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. But that's a whole story. But yeah, it's affecting everyone right now. I just pray that this season that we're in, eventually, that it passes sooner than later. But even if it doesn't, this country as a whole, it's kind of one of those things like, that's what you get. People would say that when you would do something and then, karma bites you in the butt. Like that. Oh, that's what you get, right? This country has bullied and killed and mistreated people for so long around the world and even within these United States. I don't know how people didn't think this eventually would come back to us or to this country and affect the country in such a negative way. After a while, any type of not situation, but any type of thing that you're harming person, an animal, whatever, after a while, unless you completely eradicate the whole species, people are going to retaliate. People are going to get tired. And that's another reason why they want to erase history too, because it's like when you think about a lot of things that relate to what we've been taught in history with, let's say slavery, for example. They don't talk about the revolts that happened during slavery. They don't talk about how people were actually, killing masters and fighting back. You don't hear about that stuff because the thing is, if you know that history and you know that this wasn't just, white people were just that good at dominating and this, that, and the other, there were some instances where there were slaves that were like, no, this is absolutely not. And they were going in hard body, right? If you know that information and you educate yourself also on the lines of how horrible slavery was, it would change, I would hope it would change your tune as to what you think this country is about. And also your ancestors or other, white people in this country and even other people beyond the quote unquote white person was doing during that time to ensure that this system was upheld. Cruel things were done. And I don't even think the word cruel even like gives it justice. I mean, just horrible, horrible things done in the name of attempting to get this country in a place where it was I'm not blanking on words, but where it was kind of like, a main power in the world. And this still is happening to this day. But I think now what's happening and the difference between now and then, maybe even the 60s, if you want to look at that whole time of like transformation in this country, the difference is we have technology. You know what I'm saying? And that to me, and this is just to Leesh, but that to me changes the game drastically. Because if you think about times before this time, where we are in the midst of a revolution. There was only limited information that you could get, and information that, true, real, like news and information about what was going on, you'd have to get that by way of really hardcore searching. For the most part, you can find just about anything now because of technology. And at one point, TikTok is still a good place to look for some stuff. You gotta be really careful with it. But at one point, TikTok was really a place that people were going to find out what the hell was really going on. And then on top of that, you could fact check it just to ensure that this was not some mumbo jumbo. But there's way too many platforms that are out there that are providing information to people. And so to trick people and to lie to people, like it was done in the past, to me, I think it's ridiculous. I know some people are still going to succumb to the nonsense and the lies or whatever because, whatever. I don't know why people do what they do, but they do, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, the erasure of the history of this country, it can only go so far. You know what I'm saying? Because there are way too many people who are so savvy with technology. And I think people that are in this administration and even, other people who are just in government who are trying to control the narrative that are older, that don't understand robust certain people are with managing, when I say robust, but how knowledgeable, not robust, but how robust, I can say how robust the internet can be if you utilize it properly with getting the correct information. And if you're savvy enough to retrieve that information, everything you're saying to me or you claim is happening in this country, people are going to look at you like, okay, sure, okay. Like, clearly you've not, done your homework. Because if you would have, you would know that that is not true. And so for me, knowing that alone, especially when I see all this stuff that's causing more fear, they're erasing this, they're getting rid of that, any type of historical information that really is about educating people about Black people, about, just the injustices that were done to marginalized people in this country. The erasure of that is by way of their basic knowledge of how to get rid of shit. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, okay, do what you got to do because, this is basically all for show. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if I really want to get this information, I can just look it up. I can look it up and I can, go down the rabbit holes of finding all the things if I really want to. So in some ways, it's pitiful that people are going to these lengths to actually, quote unquote, erase history and cause all these, shut down organizations and different federal jobs and departments in the federal government, because of what they claim Doge has found. And it's just like, give me a break. Yeah, it's wild that people believe, like they truly believe that this stuff is all for the greater good of the country. And it's like, take the time to look this shit up and see that you're being lied to. And not even that, like take the time to look to see, make sure, know that this is all a lie. And then also reconcile with the fact that, okay, I was, duped. I was duped. Sometimes you just have to admit it. It's okay. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But to sit around and keep pretending like what you believe in is true and you're going to fight it to the death, it's only going to it's going to be horrible for you in the long run. I don't know, friends. I do know, but you know what I'm saying? It's a lot. But the hope is, because, based off Trump's approval rating, I think it's right is it right at 40 or below 40%? I think it's in the 30s. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure the last thing I saw about it was in the 30s. So I think more people are getting on board and realizing, like, this ain't it. Like, he promised this and that. Groceries are still high as hell. Everything is high as hell. The old egg, situation went to. These eggs are still high. Like, what are you doing, sir? Like, you claimed all these things were going to work out in our favor. Meanwhile, people are scraping pennies together to make shit shake. Like, what are we doing here? So, I mean, I think if anything, we can wrap it up with, the hope is that, Trumpy Bear's ratings continue to go down. More officials continue to, what do you call it, like, drop lawsuits? Is it drop lawsuits? Or, put lawsuits against him? You know what I'm talking about. The attorney generals continue to do their shit and, try to shut this down. I think if we get more momentum behind this, hopefully he'll be out before the year is out. Because, I mean, this is not sustainable. It is April. Like I said at the beginning, it feels like it's easily been 5 good years since he's been in office. It's only been, we're right at the 100 days or a little bit over the 100 days? Guys, what? Meanwhile, I saw something where they were talking about what he's done in 100 days was like he got rid of the straw situation where they went from like the biodegradable straws back to plastic. Obviously, this whole horrible thing with deporting people. And it was something else was the third thing, but it was something very like, are you serious? And so like seeing that, and it was just like, friend, in 100 days, this is what you've done? Huh? It's not looking good for Trumpy Bear. It's not looking good for him at all. So for me, I just say be encouraged. I feel like it's not easy, like I said in the beginning, but if we stick together and we start creating community and really looking out for each other, because this government, it's going to government. It's going to do what the hell it wants to do. But if we come together as a people, we can make the difference. You know what I'm saying? We can't rely on these people to do shit for us because a lot of these people are doing these jobs because they need a job, right? Or they want power or, whatever. And some people that are in government, some of them are trying to do their best for the people. But for the majority, or at least from what we see is happening right now, it has nothing to do with us and all about their egos and whatever else. So I think we need to stick together and we need to put a lot of things aside and realize that we are all we have. Seriously. All right, guys. I'm home. I've been home for a bit, but I had to finish this up with y'all. Be encouraged. Be encouraged. And find joy. Find joy. One thing I will say, well, not one thing, but I will suggest this. Oh, that's outside. It's like a spider web. Anyway, if you haven't seen the movie Sinners, that's what I need to get to talk to y'all about. Daggone it. Listen, Sinners, do yourself a favor and go watch that movie. Go to the movie theater and watch it. It is phenomenal. For those of that are saying it's not, whatever. But it's phenomenal. Probably one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time. And I mean a very long time. Yeah, I don't have time to talk about it. The point of it is go see it, and I would love to chat with people about it because I don't have enough people around me that have seen it. And I was like, I need to debrief with people about this movie. I need to go watch it again because there's just so many things in it. Beautiful piece of work. Mr. Kugler, you did your big one because that was everything. Seriously. All right. Once again, like I said, guys, have a good one. I love you. And like I said, let's just keep on keeping on. And as always, I'll see y'all next week.